What's the secret to winning fantasy football FAAB? Imagine having a secret weapon that can turn your season around. That weapon is your approach to the waiver wire and free agency. Winning at fantasy football often comes down to how you manage your free agent acquisition budget, or FAAB. The key is not just spending money, but spending it wisely over the entire season. First, don't blow your entire budget early on. Many managers make the mistake of spending half or more of their FAAB on one or two players right away. Instead, spread out your spending. Save enough to make impactful moves later in the season, especially during playoff weeks. Usually, top waiver pickups cost around 50 to 60% of your total FAAB. This leaves you with funds to react to injuries or hot streaks later on. Patience is also a big part of the game. Sometimes waiting to see how a player performs before bidding big is smarter. If a player looks promising but hasn't proven it yet, don't overbid. But if a player suddenly gets a bigger role due to an injury or breakout, be ready to spend aggressively. Quick reactions can secure players before your opponents do. Knowing your league mates is another secret. Watch how they bid and what players they value. If you notice they're willing to spend heavily on a certain position, you can bid just enough to beat them or block their move. This can keep key players out of their hands and give you an edge. Matchups matter too. When considering a bid, look at the upcoming schedule for the player. If they face weaker defenses or have a stretch of games with high scoring potential, it might be worth a higher bid. Conversely, avoid overpaying for players with tough matchups. Use small bids for depth or less critical pickups. For example, bids under 5% of your total FAAB help you conserve funds. This way, you can save your budget for bigger opportunities later. Sometimes you can use your extra FAAB to block other managers from grabbing players they need. If you're in a good position, bidding just enough to prevent someone else from getting a player can be a smart move. It's about controlling the waiver wire and maintaining your advantage. In leagues that allow $0 bids, you can claim players without spending your FAAB. This is useful for low-demand players or when you want to keep your budget intact for future needs. Adjust your strategy based on your league format. For example, in guillotine leagues where players are eliminated weekly, you might spend more aggressively on consistent players to avoid early exits. Finally, keep an eye on players who get dropped. Sometimes a player who was once valuable gets released, and you can pick them up for little or no FAAB. These low-cost pickups can turn into valuable assets later. The secret to winning FAAB is balancing discipline with aggression. Spend your budget thoughtfully, watch your opponents, and act at the right moments. This approach helps you build a strong, flexible roster that can adapt as the season unfolds.